I am your host, Sage Adderley, and I've got someone extra juicy for you today. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. Today, joining us, our special guest is Maria Alejandra. She's basically a queen. She shines this beautiful, bright light. She's my go-to person when I'm ready for real talk. Which I'm always ready for real talk. So today, MA is going to be talking about releasing, tapping into your unique self. It's going to be amazing. So grab your journal and get ready for this. Oh, hey, MA, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, Sage. Fancy seeing you here on the interwebs.
I know, just bumping into you.
What a cosmic connection. Well, hello, everybody. Sage, thank you so much for the introduction, for having me here. I love playing with you, and it's just such a thrill to be in the space. Thanks for calling me queen. I'll take it. I'll take it. And yeah, so what I love to do is what I'm really passionate about, what I call my divine appointment, is that as I continue growing in my own transformation, my own spiritual quest, and my quest of like, what am I meant to do here as a multi-passionate woman on earth? I love to help other women uncover the same thing and help catalyze them into momentum around the things that they're passionate about. And the three pillars of what I teach about, coach on, are mindset, magic, and momentum. And I also speak a lot about this this way of seeing the world that I call creatrix consciousness, which is a very cosmic, very ethereal, and also very grounded way of approaching ourselves, igniting our light, and really doing the thing we're meant to do. I define a creatrix as she, he, they, who turns light into form, right? We turn light into form. And so when Sage and I spoke about what to share today, we came up with this piece that I think is so fundamental, and it was a really powerful time for us to sink our teeth into this work of releasing, right? The magic of releasing the stuff that no longer serves, and of actually making the way for our unique path. And I say this idea of really finding your unique path is something that and I'll tell you, the way I work is very strategic, very intuitive, and I'm always like tapping, like my little cosmic antenna is always like picking up on what we get to step into. And so this idea of really making way for your unique path becomes really pivotal at this time because it's available for us. And I say that, and it's available from a place of like deep within. And you'll know if this is resonating for you, you'll be like, yes, there's something there. And so let's unpack that. What does that look like when we think about releasing? For the purposes of today's conversation, I'm thinking I want to focus in on releasing three things. One is what your ego expected of you, and I'm going to use past tense, what your ego expected of you, right? Ego is not a bad thing. But our ego has certain expectations of us that come with what we think we should do to fit a certain mold. There's some sort of, pride there. Like, how do we release the areas that we kind of cling on to from that ego belief? The second is releasing what others expected of me. Releasing what others expected of me. And boy, is this a tough one. This is one that we're like, Sage, I see you nodding over there. It's like, we're on it. This is the path. And a lot of times I tell my clients and my audience, it's like, this is the path of the creatrix in my speak. Like, this is the path of the creatrix. So it doesn't mean like you have to like, oh, let me release all this stuff and then do my work. I know I'm on the path of constantly releasing and constantly opening up to what's new. And the changes are happening so quickly and can happen so quickly that having an awareness of that is really cool, because then you're not waiting for your moment, you're creating your moment as you go. You're creating your next evolution of who you are all the time. So release what your ego expected of you, release what others expected of you. And something I've been feeling a lot into, particularly with the energy as we're recording this, is releasing the old, the structures, the methods, the methods and structures that just are not working for you anymore. So I want you to think about anything that you've been holding on to in terms of how you're doing things, how you're going about your life, in terms of the structures of your life, of your day, that may just be outdated, and opening up the space for a more intuitive approach to bring in and weave into your day. And here's the thing, it's not that we're releasing the structures, it's that we're releasing the structures that don't work in order to make way for the structures that do work. Because structure, I think, is really, really powerful. When it's a structure that's aligned with your work, it builds momentum, it helps you create what's next. It creates this like space for your creatrix to play, right? So I think it's not that structure is like, oh no, like actually structure and focus, I think, are very freeing in a lot of ways. Because what's on the other side of like not having a structure or focus is we are one of these, you know, we're multi-passionate, multi-dimensional, multi-hyphenated. Like I love all of these things, but then you feel like you're not really moving in a certain direction, like you're not carving the path, blazing that new trail for yourself, because you might be focused like not focused on one thing, but like fragmented. So it's this space of constantly like asking ourselves, is my energy fragmented or is it focused? Is this making sense, Sage? Let me know if we're on the right path.
It makes so much sense. It's something that I actually teach with my writers, that we get to listen to our intuition and follow that, and we get to have structure. We get to do both. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm with
yes. Totally. So it's a really potent time, and it's always a good time to ask ourselves, what am I ready to release that's no longer serving me? And that's a phrase that is tossed around a lot, but really, really sit with it. And it takes a lot of courage to then disengage from the things that you're used to then open up new energetic space and or physical space, emotional space, for you to then call in and magnetize what you're ready to create. And so think about anything that it's like, what do I have in my life right now that I think I'm supposed to be doing, right? Just write all of that down. Now, in that bucket, there might be things that we do get to do, that it's not my favorite thing to do, fill in the blank, but I do it. And this is where, that powerful phrase that you and I know, Sage, it's like the difference between I have to and I get to, right? So there are many things in our lives that once we switch into, well, actually, I get to, so there's a different energy and a frequency there. So there's that, but there are a lot of other things that you're doing because, again, your ego expects them of you in some way, shape, or form. Maybe it's like a past iteration of who you have been. I know for many of us, we've been evolving so quickly, and we've been doing a lot of this beautiful inner work, or we've been putting our work out in the world. And certainly, if you are a writer and you're watching this, and whether you already have a book baby out in the world or your book baby is being birthed, you are somebody who is taking yourself on in such a sacred way to shed old beliefs and to share your story with the world and share your perspective with the world. And so, I commend you for doing that, because we need more of you in the world. So thank you for the beautiful work you do. And you get to acknowledge that you're not the same person. And it's not about becoming someone new, but releasing all of the things that are not you. And so imagine all these things we've released, the baggage that we've let go of, like, oh, I thought this was me, I let that go. There might still be certain things that you're kind of like clinging on to. So this is a good time to look at them and go, actually, why is it important for me to hold on to this particular thing? And do some work around, is it possible for me to release this? What does life look like on the other side of me releasing this? What am I afraid will happen if I release this? And opening up that space for you to acknowledge and be aware of what that might be. And then what happens is we can turn into turn our gaze into what is my unique path. And in a world where we're fed so much information, you know, all it takes is a scroll through social media or in your email inbox or the people you surround yourself with, whatever media you're bringing into your sphere, to see what, you know, what all the other people expect us to be. And all of those are just illusions and projections based on their own view of the world. But unless we make space to think, okay, what is my own unique path? What is the seed that I want to plant that's uniquely mine? What is a story that I want to tell? It's uniquely mine. Unless we create space for that, then, you know, we'll still be inundated with thoughts of what we think the world expects of us. And I really believe that over the next, you know, couple of years, building your own unique path, meaning that you're not necessarily like reacting to what you think the world needs. Let's say you're writing a story or you're building a business from the standpoint of, well, what is it that people want to read? Or what is it that people need as in a coach and a healer? But rather looking at like, what is my unique, you know, I call it your light print, that which makes you completely unique. What is that? And then having that courage to craft that little by little, taking momentum and like building steps, you can increase the momentum and keep going. And supporting yourself along the way, because we don't have to do it by ourselves. And it's a time for collaboration, co-creation, contribution. It's a time of service. It's a time where we get to redefine what success looks like based on your terms, what abundance looks like based on your terms, and what having a prosperous life based on what matters to you looks like. Am I making sense?
You are so speaking to me. I'm like, oh, I know I invited you here to speak to the community, but I'm like, I feel like you're speaking to me. But really, like, I mean, my eyes are a little watery because there's something so beautiful that what you're saying, what's landing for me is that like defining what success means to us, not numbers that we think we should be hitting or what our businesses should be looking like, but like peeling all of that back, which goes back to the first things that you talked about with releasing the expectations of others and ego, and really like looking at, we get to define that. We get to define what our abundant life looks like. And that is so freeing and beautiful.
Yeah. And that, thank you for sharing that from your perspective. And that in itself sets the tone for others. It's almost like, you know, what we're doing as a collective, especially if you're drawn to this kind of conversation, what you're doing is twofold. I always say your medicine comes in two ways. Your medicine comes in what you share with the world, right? Your words, your creations, your energy, like that's part of your medicine. And also it's the fact that you're doing it and how you're doing it. And so every time you sit and you ask yourself, you know, what does success mean to me? What does abundance mean to me? And then move from that space and actually ignite a spark with that energy, you're doing something so valuable for the rest of the world, certainly for the people around you. You're going to set ripples in motion that you don't even know where they're going to reach, tiny ripples that you don't know who they're going to impact. And you're actually shifting the way we all think about things, we all create, we all feel held, we all feel in a space of just dialing back the judgment and my goodness, like how magnificent. And the fact is that while I believe in like, you know, quantum time and things can happen way quicker than we think, the fact is that this is one of those, like, it's like this big piece that just we're moving like ever so slowly, right? It's like this bigger thing that we're all kind of shifting together. And each one of us has a certain part to play. So when we have, you know, this, let's call it the stamina to keep showing up in whatever way that looks like based on how you define your success, but to keep showing up, then we all move this collectively. And it just like, it really shifts the energy. And I know that this is like, you know, big, like, you know, energy talk, but it's just, it's what I feel and it's what I know we're all doing. And my, you know, one of my hopes, and what I stand for is that enough of us with these beautiful visions of shifting the way we do things, shifting the paradigm of birthing beautiful things into the world, making our own, setting our own tone for what we know is possible, that enough of us maintain the stamina, the focus, that we maintain that, like, you know, the courage to keep showing up. Because there's a lot of stuff that happens around us. Sage and I both know that that can totally rock your life to bits and pieces. And so when we can stay on that, like, not from a place of like, oh, I have to do this because, oh, I'm going to hustle through it, but just because it's something that's born within you, and you're tending to it, you know, you're tending to that like spark. Enough of us stay on that path and just miraculous things will happen, and they will happen big picture, and they will happen in your life, even after periods of what you think might seem like stagnation, or might seem like being some like stuck and you can't quite get. Know that everything, that every intention, every bit of energy that you're putting into your North Star will always like bring a result that might be unexpected and might not come at the time you thought, but you're planting the seed for what's next. And being in that constant space of, okay, what am I ready to release here? What am I ready to receive here? And one of the ways I like to do that, bringing it into a practical yet cosmic perspective, is with the moon cycles. So, you know, releasing every full moon and bringing in something new every new moon. And when we move with that rhythm, right? When you begin to move with that rhythm, we actually allow our intuitive self, our spirit self, to come out to play, because she is not defined by logic. And logic are the rhythms that are like man-made, right? The, you know, certain hours in the day and the days of the week, and all that stuff is man-made. When we move with the rhythm of nature, the rhythm of the moon, the rhythm of the cosmos, then it's like we're infusing that into our days. So when we think about releasing and receiving, using the moon is a beautiful way even to start. And it doesn't take a lot for you to just be like in that space of, okay. It's like this really nice way to pace your weeks.
And today happens to be a full moon.
Yes, indeed. Today happens to be, it's a super full moon in Capricorn, and it's the last super full moon of 2021. So yes, that's why we were, you know, we were meant to call in this energy of releasing, especially during Capricorn as a sign of structures. It's a sign of associated with time. It's a sign, it's the mountain goat, right? So she's climbing up, she's reaching her goals. So it's that. So imagine releasing, okay, what are the structures that don't serve me? So I can make way for structures that I'm defining anew, that can actually fuel my growth in a new way. So there's a beautiful space there of really like questioning, like, what's, you know, what will fuel my growth in a whole new radical way? And because I'm all about like experimenting and having a beginner mindset, not thinking that you've got to have it all figured out, right? Because part of the path is we're literally creating new things as we go. So being willing to play in the laboratory of life. It's like, okay, well, you know, I'm going to experiment, and I'm going to be willing to, I'm allowing that very experimentation to be part of the path. Like, that's what I'm doing. You know, it's almost like that's as much a part of our job as the creatrix, as like a visionary, absolutely, to experiment and try new things, rather than think like, okay, I got to get this out when it's like ready and done. Because that's like the old thinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that you say laboratory of life because I talk to my clients about being creative scientist.
Ooh, of course, of course.
And it's true because I believe when you're in movement and you're not on the sidelines trying to plan everything out and, make sure you know all the things before you move forward, when you're actually in movement, like you said, like that's when you're in discovery, that's when you're in inquiry, that's when you're like, oh, that didn't work. Oh, that worked. And then you're just collecting all of this information on your journey. And that's magic.
Yeah, it really is. And it's a game changer, especially if you identify as a recovering perfectionist or a procrastinator because you want to see things a certain way and you're kind of like waiting to get ready to go and it just doesn't happen. And ambitious, we've been, and a lot of it too is tied to our understanding of what success and worth is, and our value is how, how hard we work towards something. And it's interesting because when we think about like working hard, like the old school way of like hustle, work hard to then get, it's almost like a transaction, like do this, you can get your reward. We're like a lot of us are in this space of a question, like busting that apart, like, well, wait a minute, that just doesn't really work for me anymore. But it doesn't mean you're not putting in your all. It doesn't mean you're not putting in your time and your energy, but then it becomes something that's actually fuels you, because it's coming from a different place, and how you're showing up. And that's, again, is part of that questioning of what have others been expecting of me that I've like almost taken on like default, like that's a default kind of thinking, instead of me designing the way that I want to show up for this particular thing. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, and it's really comforting to know that you get to do it your way and that you don't have to follow the way anyone else did it or anyone else's expectations. And I think there's a big piece about giving yourself some grace and compassion, relearning new ways as you're trying to unravel your old ways that aren't working and learning those new ways. And it's a shift and it takes time.
I love that so much. I totally felt that, because then, when we think, oh, you got to do it your way, then it's like, oh, what is that even like? How do I do that? And it's like, it's okay. We're unlearning and we're relearning. And so, it starts with simple little shifts in even how you respond to your life from an intuitive perspective, like nurturing that part of you, whether it's deciding what you're going to have for lunch or deciding whether you want to embark on a project or not, and first taking a moment to check in and see like, okay, let me play with, if my intuition were to answer and I had no other like repercussions, right? Because we have all these like, what if my intuition were to answer this right now, what would it tell me? And beginning to get reacquainted with that voice that is constantly guiding you, and finding those spaces in your everyday life. I'm a really big believer in having like a walking spiritually connected life. I love creating, sacred, quiet space for those moments when you really want to but throughout your day, we're constantly given the opportunity to have those touch points. And I know that a lot of us, because this was my reality for a long time, I had sort of like a compartmentalized, like spiritual, intuitive life. And then I had like the real world life. And it was like, how are these two worlds going to come together? And so part of what I like talking about nowadays is weaving your inner drive and your divine wisdom, is weaving it so that you have a more holistic view of who you are, so that when you're planning forward, you're using the phases of the moon and you're using, strategic ways to, make decisions and define deadlines for yourself and create, that. And then when we align it all together, it's like, oh, okay. It's just, it weaves in other sources that we may not have been considering before. So it's very juicy.
It is very juicy. And I'm so happy that you spoke into that, because that is a conversation that I hear a lot with people is, well, how do I come out as a writer? Like, people know me as this person,
Mm,
but I'm writing about this. Are they going to think I'm weird? And I'm like, they might. They might, and that's okay.
absolutely. Yes, yes, yeah. And I remember, you know, in my own experience of being in corporate for a very long time and then coming out as a coach, and then even after coming out as a coach, I've had this like shedding all these layers so that I'm now merging into more of who I'm really meant to be. And there's still a lot more amazing evolution to come, but it's scary because it's like, oh, people expect this. And all I can say, because I know what it's like to be in that space, I feel it. I think about it now and I'm like, ooh, I feel it. But what I can say is that continue to lean into the spaces, the places, and the people that can help you nudge, like get a little bit closer to where you desire, where you dream to be. Because what is on the other side is this freedom, the freedom of self-expression, the freedom of knowing that you are resilient enough to weather any storm, the freedom that it really doesn't matter what other people say, even if your ego still takes a hit, because we're human, it doesn't it doesn't make you crumble. Like, you will be okay. And the freedom is far more just, it's so worth the path to like open the doors of, oh, but you know, what if I come out as a writer of this particular topic and people are, it's coming out of left field. That may sting your ego for a little bit, meaning like, you know, what people thought about you. But my goodness, how freeing for you to declare who you are. And actually, it's really freeing for others to see that in us as well. So it doesn't mean you've got to do it for other people, do it for yourself, but know that you're also giving a gift to others and showing them what's possible when someone stands in their truth. I find it so magnetic when I experience somebody who I know is taking themselves on in an authentic way. Like, I'm here living my imperfect, vulnerable life, but I'm going for it. Like, that to me is so magnetic. And I know it's magnetic for others as well, because we all yearn to have that freedom to express, to be, to just like, oh, you know, to and receive and be witnessed. You know, it's like receive the wonderful things the universe wants to shine our way, and be witnessed in that way, and be seen for who we are, rather than that constricted, like, you know, shell of who you think you're supposed to be. Yeah, it's just, it's really beautiful.
I always say, shine your weirdo light.
Yeah.
The other weirdos can come a calling.
Yeah.
They can come
Yes.
running. And yeah, it is freeing and it is scary. And you can
Mhm.
feel both. You can feel excited
And you
and
can
you can
feel
feel
both.
scared. You can
I
be in
love
both
that.
places. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, so
I
good.
know.
I thrill. It's thrilling for me to have these conversations, and it's thrilling for me to know that we're all shining. Like, I see it as like this grid of lights, like this grid of lights all over the world, that just every time you know, just don't, most of us are kind of dimming our light switch. Like, know that your dimmer, the dimmer is, the light bulb can take it. Like, bring the dimmer all the way up. The light bulb can take it. It's not going to explode. It's not going to blind others. On the contrary. And so the more we like light up, it's like we power this beautiful grid. And life is happening now. Like, life is now. Like, can we just take a moment? Because Sage and I both understand this, and I know many of you understand this at a really deep, deep, deep level. The time to be like, well, maybe someday, dot, dot, dot. It's like,
Nope.
no, 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 no. Your someday is today, in this moment. And when we can really, really like, you know, like see that, it has the power to just kind of like dissipate all the other BS that we tend to worry about that probably won't happen anyway. So
That's the truth.
yeah.
It's the truth. And yes, life is now times 1 million. Like I can't preach harder about that one phrase, that life is now, and the waiting for the time to be right. Like it's such a sad myth. And it breaks my heart when people are like, oh, I'll do it when, or I'll do it when this happens, or when I have this amount of money or this amount of time. And it's like, oh goodness, it's now. It's like you get to live your purpose in this moment. You get to, like, in one breath, you can change your entire life. I know. And I love that you speak into, you don't have to do anything alone. That's what community is for.
Yeah.
And we live in this really wild time where we have access by the click of a button to anyone from around the entire globe. And that is such a beautiful thing. And really embracing that we get to share with people from all over the world, from all different cultures, all different walks of life. And that's so exciting.
Yeah. That we get to find our weirdos.
We get to find our
weirdos.
Worldwide weirdos.
Oh my God, that's a thing. That's a thing you got cooking there.
Yeah, the real meaning of WW.
I love that so much.
That's so good.
Sign me up. Sign me up.
MA, you're so amazing. Like, I know I told you I was going to gush about you, but seriously, like, I really honor the way you show up, no matter what is going on. Like, you show up in generosity, and the work that you do is a ripple effect in the world. And so I'm just so thankful that you show up in the way that you do. Thank you. So receive it all.
I receive it. I receive it. Open heart.
Opening it up and receive it all.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.